Can you dig it, Coach?
How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Windy City Digits. That's Vic. I'm Carl. Bears are 3-0 in the preseason. Sox are floundering.
We watched all the games.
Right. But football season starts in about a week. So
that's right.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning back to the channel. We do appreciate it. Thanks for everyone that's watching us on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and listening to us on Spotify. Today is going to be kind of a special episode for us. We had a chance to interview a
Windy City legend.
Yeah, Windy City legend. I would say that, right? I would say also someone who kind of paved the way for a lot of the current, female sportscasters that are in the city, not just on TV but on radio also. So Vic and I just had the chance to interview Peggy Kusinski, 12-time Emmy Award journalist, who was working at NBC and is now currently on ESPN Radio 1000. Who you can hear her on Saturday afternoons with Dion Miller, with Peggy and Dion. So Vic, talk a little bit about the interview that we're about to see.
The interview talks a little bit about Peggy growing up on the northwest side of Chicago, the influence her brothers and her family had on her kind of love for sports, and ultimately like kind of what got her into her career path, and then some really awesome entertaining stories about the special moments as a broadcaster, from the Cubs to the Bears, so many different cool things that we would never know.
Yeah. So if you haven't, for those of you that may not know who Peggy is, she is definitely a talented, knowledgeable sportscaster. I could listen to her all day. I could talk to her all day about sports, again, with the knowledge that she has. So
you could talk all day, period.
Yes, I could. So we're going to play the interview now. We're going to follow up after the video on this, and then enjoy the interview.
Carl and I are extremely excited for our show today because we will be interviewing a 12-time Emmy-winning sportscaster, a board of director of Girls in the Game, a former sports anchor for NBC5, YouTube sensation on Sportscaster and her son with Peggy K and Jason Conander, and current ESPN 1000 co-host of Peggy and Dion. Make sure you check out the Chicago app in the ESPN radio, and please welcome the amazingly talented, Emmy-winning Peggy Kusinski.
Yay!
Thank you.
This is
Hi,
awesome.
guys.
How are you?
Great, especially after a nice Bears performance to cap off the preseason, right?
I thought it was a good performance last night. That was awesome. So look, Peggy, we're just kind of ask you a couple of questions first. I'm going to have Vic lead, talk a little bit about how he actually has somewhat of a connection with you. So with your brothers. So I'll let you Vic take over from here.
So we all love the northwest side of Chicago. So Carl's from Maine East area. I actually went to Mirror Seat of Wisdom. So I was and then went to Notre Dame High School, and we were paired up with Rez, and the IC guys went to Notre Dame and all. And I ended up becoming friends with your brothers, who are number 9 and 10 out of your family, right?
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, and you're smack dab kind of in the middle at number 5, right?
Yeah, kind of shocking. Isn't the middle child the one that's always seeking attention? I mean, I don't know. I think I'm bucking that trend.
Yeah, that's me too. So I got a picture here from your brother's Facebook.
No.
I'm not posting it. I'm just telling you, it's the numbers are on you guys. You guys.
Oh yeah.
You kind of look like the thing 1, thing 2 from.
Yes.
Yeah. So what would you say with a group of 10? My mom is one of 12 too, so I understand, and they're all over the place. It's kind of hard to even get together. What was special about that group, of siblings, and did any of them influence your career path?
Oh my gosh.
Or did they not?
No. Well, you brought up kind of a sore subject because I used to always say that I was the best athlete in the family, and my brothers will vehemently deny it. So,
of course,
you know how they here's the thing. The greatest thing growing up in the 70s on the Northwest side, everyone had big families. Everyone did. We would play, my brothers would go out and play baseball, and it would be like the O Streets, Oconto versus Odell.
Oh, yeah.
Oconto
Yeah.
versus, Osceola.
Yeah.
And I would, the parking lot for Immaculate Conception, where the baseball, like, it's so funny, the diamond, which was on the concrete.
Yes, it
was right across the street from our house. So I would just go, and I would be, the bat girl, or I'd just kind of hang around. And if someone didn't show up, they would put me in right field. So I always played sports. And then that was the biggest influence from my brothers, and from being in a big family was, go find something to do. So I'd go across the street and I'd shoot baskets until we had a basketball net put up in our driveway. But I did that at like hours on end. We would play fast pitch on the convent wall. They would, draw
spray paint.
Those are the best.
Exactly, the strike zone. And all you needed was 2 or 3 people, a batter, a pitcher, and someone playing, the field.
Yeah.
So I played sports my whole life. And when I got to Res, I was a basketball player and volleyball player. I played, of course, 16-inch softball my entire life. We didn't play that in high school. And so I just was surrounded by sports, and I'm sure that's mostly because my older brothers were always playing sports. But, my mom was a huge sports fan, more so than my dad. My mom was the oldest in her family, and she was the oldest of 5. So she, until her brothers came along, she was, her father's son, and he would have her right next to him playing baseball. And my grandfather, he played in a lot of, I don't know what they called them back here. I think they called them factory leagues. And you represented, Nabisco. You played on the Nabisco team. So a lot of what we call like our softball leagues were baseball leagues back in the 40s and 50s. And my grandfather played with quite a few Negro League players. Satchel Paige, he played against
that's amazing.
him. And it was in these leagues that they were factory leagues. And Satchel Paige, he said, would show up at one of the games, and they'd be like, oh my gosh, here comes that pitcher. He's so good. And they knew that they were paying him like $5 to pitch for the factory. And then Satchel would pitch his 7 innings, get his $5, go get on the L, and go to another game that he was playing in. So our family was very sports oriented. And yes, having 7 brothers, it was natural for me. But my sisters didn't really, my one sister played volleyball for a bit. My younger sister didn't really play sports. So yeah, I was just it came natural for me. So
did your sisters go to Resurrection too?
Yes.
It was a must from the parents?
Oh yeah, there was no, when they picked the house that we lived in, I was just born. I think they moved in like 1963 or 64. And they picked it because it was across the street from the Catholic school. And so literally, and they knew that they were going to have a big family. All we had to do was cross the street to go to school. So my mom didn't have to actually walk us to school. Yeah. And I then went to Res, which was literally, down the street and take a left. And it ran the whole length of Talcott. So we walked there, and then my 7 brothers all went to St. Pat's. So they did have to take the bus to St. Pat's.
Yeah. I always had
we didn't have a choice. We didn't have a choice where we were going to school. We were definitely going to the Catholic schools.
So talking about Resurrection, my sister actually played for Resurrection basketball team with Pancrats.
Yep.
Probably like 4 years after you did, and I know they had a really tight crew there. They were in the top 20, and they were like Whitney Young was like a big rival at the time. Do you have any special moments in your sports career at Resurrection?
Oh gosh, I was 2nd team All-State. I was a cherry picking point guard. So, I can still whistle to this day using my fingers, for the fast break. And I'd be, cherry picking at half court for the fast break. I had so much fun playing basketball at Res. I don't know that I have a single moment because my senior year we were upset by Mother Macaulay. We were the number 1
Oh,
seed and Macaulay was the 8 seed, and that was pretty heartbreaking that we lost to them because they were the volleyball school.
Yeah, but they were always known for volleyball. Yeah.
Yes, and so that was embarrassing that we lost to the 8th seeded team. I played in a lot of city tournaments. Back then, it was the Jane Byrne Classic, and it was a girls' basketball tournament. And Andy Pankratz, who was our coach, as you mentioned, he was a backup forward center for DePaul, and back in the late 70s. He made sure that we played in the city tournaments so that we didn't just play, white suburban girl basketball. And the exposure to playing teams in the city, like Simeon, Whitney Young, Marshall. So Dorothy Gators and my coach, Andy Pankratz, Dorothy Gators went to DePaul, but they didn't have a women's team when she was there. So she and Andy Pankratz knew each other. She would bring the girls from Marshall to Res in the summer, and we would practice against them. Then we wanted to go and reciprocate, but she was like, hell no, you're not coming to our neighborhood.
Yeah.
But I became friends with a lot of those girls, Janet Harris and Peggy Christensen, all of her state champions. We became better basketball players because of Andy's idea to give us that exposure. He started out having us practice against guys, and then he got the idea, well, why don't we just bring in some of the city teams and, see if they would come out for a couple practices over the summer. So and playing in the city tournaments were really, for me, the fondest memories. It really wasn't, well, you never forget the losses. But isn't that funny? Like, I do forget the wins. I've forgotten the wins, but the losses I think are more valuable. You learn bigger lessons when you lose.
For sure. Those are the ones that stick for you, for sure. Absolutely. So, Peggy, Vic and I are big fans of your work. Obviously 12-time Emmy Award winning journalist. So we watched a lot of the events, obviously from behind the TV, but you had a chance to cover a lot of these events up close. So, I'm kind of curious as to, was there a particular Chicago sports moment or event that really sticks in your mind as to one that you covered that really is stuck with you all these years?
Yeah. I figured it out once. So I've worked 3 Olympics, one in Albertville, France, a Winter Olympics in Albertville, France, Barcelona, Spain, and Sydney. And for me, it was the very first, the Barcelona games. In
I would think so.
That was the first time I've ever traveled out of the country, and to work in Olympics. I will never forget when they played the national anthem, the United States anthem, at the opening ceremonies. It is the first time I ever cried during an anthem.
Yeah.
And since then, I always tear up during the anthem, because for me, the 92 Olympics being my first big event that I worked, I just truly understood that these were, at the time, amateur athletes, and that how much they put into getting to this moment, which on the grandest stages that you could possibly be in, that stays with me forever. I then, I covered, I started in Chicago as a sportscaster the week that Mike Ditka was fired. So that was 4 days of his career. I'll never forget that. I had never done a live shot in my life, and I was working for CLTV, Chicagoland Television, and they sent me out to Hallis Hall, the old Hallis Hall in Lake Forest, and suddenly with a media guide, I'm literally any person walking in the building, I'm looking up who they are, stopping them and pulling them over for a live shot. Covering that was pretty incredible. And then I covered, of course, the Bears loss in the Super Bowl. I covered 3 Stanley Cup winning Stanley Cups for the Blackhawks. I covered 3 Bulls championships, the last 3. I covered the Cubs winning the World Series, and I covered the White Sox World Series. So there's things that stand out with each of those. In Chicago, I had just arrived in Chicago when I got to cover Michael Jordan's 3 of their NBA championships.
Yeah.
And to
Amazing
see
times.
Scottie Pippen, we were underneath the basket back when they let the reporters on courtside, and to watch the clock count down to 0 and to see Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan hug, cry, jump up onto the table.
Yeah.
And amongst all these fans, and Eddie Vedder is walking around with like a bottle of whiskey, and they're drinking.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is unbelievable. It gave me chills again to see professional athletes still love it so much that they were drawn to tears. The fun of the Bears, Lovie Smith's Bears team, losing that Super Bowl, which they never should have lost.
Yeah.
They just seeing the pure fun of that team. The innovation we brought to the Stanley Cup with the Blackhawks, 3 of their Stanley Cups. It was my cameraman's idea to go live in the dressing room right after the games, because there was nothing in the rules that said we couldn't. So we were the first station at Channel 5 to come up with that idea, literally roaming a locker room live right after a game and bringing the fans what it's like to have to elbow your way in for position, get a question in to the players, get them to acknowledge it. That was super fun, because I think we also taught a lot of people about hockey. I didn't know a lot about hockey. I knew enough to cover it.
Yeah.
Neither do I.
Right? But we taught the fans. It was like we were all on this adventure together, because they really brought us into that team. They were so likable. Of course, the White Sox, we rode the bus during the parade for the World Series.
That's awesome.
They don't do that really anymore. To ride on top of a bus and interview Harold Baines while we see all these fans. And then, of course, the Cubs World Series. I grew up both a Cub and a Sox fan. So when the Cubs won it, that was a win for the generations in every family.
Oh, for sure.
Chicago.
Yeah. Yep. I still have video of that with my kids. My kids were pretty young at the time, and I still have video of us. I put the camera right towards us, watching the final out, and I'm picking up my kids in both arms.
Yes.
That was an amazing feeling. You'll never forget.
That's so awesome. Just hearing you tell these stories about all these teams that you covered, like we watched it from behind our TVs, but I can't even imagine what it was like especially those Bulls teams, what it was like just being in the stadium, let alone covering it.
Well, I was so new, back in the early 90s then, that, gosh, I mean, it was like being on a rock tour. It was crazy. It was, they were like rock stars. Every hotel, there were hundreds of people in the lobby waiting for them to check in. And it was really, it was so cool to see. We were watching The Last Dance with my kids, and they were like, "Mom, are you going to be in any of these?" I go, "I don't think so." I was really young back then. That was before I really kind of started, letting my voice be heard. So yeah, I mean, those teams when I look back, I can't imagine that I would have had the same career if I was working in Podunk, Iowa.
Yeah.
And honestly, because the number of championships we had, I was covering them at the peak, the best time to be a sports reporter in Chicago sports.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Especially with those particular teams. So that's amazing. It's like it's very cool hearing those stories that you're telling. So
I
get chills. I get chills.
Yeah.
I get chills.
Now we need a championship again.
So
the years are kind of starting to add up again, right?
They are, yes. Slowly.
Hoping that 100-year drought again for the Cubs or anything like that.
Gosh.
So, it won't.
So Vic, you want to go ahead and ask the next question on the Bears there?
So you talked about when we first met about the 3-0 start for the Bears. What do you think about that last win and your thoughts on the Bears coming into the season?
So I think I'm riding a little bit of a roller coaster, but I would
So
say
are
that
we.
I'm definitely willing to take the ride up right now. It started with when they hired Poles and Eberflus, and it just seemed so similar to their last hiring, first time guys in their jobs.
Yes.
They seemed a little vanilla, so I wasn't sure where all this positivity was coming from. They highly recommended, but so was Matt Nagy and
Ryan
Ryan
Pace.
Pace.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was very skeptical, to be honest with you. I was very skeptical. The press conference where they're like, "What? No applause?" And I thought, "Oh, this isn't Indy anymore. You don't get applause at
Yeah.
press
Yeah. Yeah.
conferences, in Chicago."
Yeah.
The hits principle, it was very rah rah.
Hokey.
But I will say, since ESPN 1000 has hired me, and I don't do anything halfway, uh, I was just hosting Saturdays, but I felt like I wasn't in the know enough. I didn't want to just sit in the studio and be a talking, opinionated head without ever actually going to games and practices. So I
Mm-hmm.
decided to really start focusing in on the Bears again. And I started going to training camp. And I think I went to 9 or 10 practices and press conferences just to kind of get to know them better and to make my own opinion. And I got to tell you, this hits thing, like these players have bought in.
Wow.
And I don't know, it just might earn them a couple extra wins with a depleted, talented roster. They're not going to have the type of skilled players that we wish they had. That's going
Mm-hmm.
to be another year or two away. But I'm telling you, they have bought in just purely by being graded on every single play in practice and in the preseason games, every single play. And they're not graded on whether they followed their assignments correctly. They're graded on the hits principle, with the intensity and the tackling and the takeaways, and playing smart. They said we could see it. We see the difference on tape. We could tell that if when we don't follow the principle, something bad happens or we missed an opportunity. So, and I think we're starting to see that now on tape. We're starting to see that ourselves in the preseason games that we got to see now, 3 of them. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what, though, I was awfully surprised by the offense in their preseason finale against Cleveland. I mean, did any of us see this coming with Justin Fields hitting 7 different receivers,
No.
almost 200 yards passing? What was it, 146 quarterback rating?
Rating.
I mean, I didn't see that. I did not see that coming. Moving the pocket with bootlegs
Yes,
and
that was fantastic.
right. I mean, we've been screaming for
Oh my
that.
God.
Um, I I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, and if they and here's the other thing: the number of rookies that are contributing.
Yeah.
I
Uh-huh.
mean, I think we're finding out that they definitely can scout college talent.
Yeah.
Okay, there's an awful lot of free agents on this roster who are on
Mm-hmm.
1-year contracts who were toss offs from other teams. I'm not sure about some of those veteran signees. I'm not sure. So we'll see. Maybe that's just not, there wasn't a lot out there for them. I think we're going to see them pick up a couple of guys from other rosters
Mm-hmm.
that get tossed away. But I'm starting to buy in that Ryan Poles and his staff can identify talent now. And definitely Matt Eberflus's staff can definitely coach, because we have seen a big jump from game 2 to game 3, and I'm impressed with how much these guys have been coached up.
Yeah, we've been talking about, like, I love Gutsy. I think Gutsy was a great hire. Vic's telling me to pump the brakes a little bit, but I think that, if he keeps moving this offense, he's going to be a head coach someday real soon. I think if he keeps moving forward with this offense, the work he's done just in one off season with this team, I think has been pretty incredible.
And last week, Carl, when we were asking him, what do you identify your offense as? And he said, I don't know yet. I don't know yet what we're capable of. I'm still learning that. But
Mhm.
for him to still be learning it and to slowly be implementing some of this to bring the best out of Justin Fields, you know that you have a rookie left tackle who's only played against uh, not not the greatest of talent in college,
No, not at all.
right?
Yeah.
So you see that we have he's bootlegging right away from where there might be some pressure coming in on the left. A couple of times I did see Tevin Jenkins, the pocket did collapse on the right interior where Tevin Jenkins is. But he's, that's learning. And listen, we don't know. Everyone's assuming Tevin Jenkins is the starting right guard. No, actually Riley Reef. And once they get some of these guys back, I think we're going to see Borum and Reef. I think we're going to see Jenkins if he's not traded. I think we're going to still see those three guys still battling it out on the right side. And throw in Michael Schofield too. So,
Yeah.
but they need depth at offensive line, and that's another good sign.
Yeah, hopefully they'll pick up some guys on the waiver wire this week. We'll see what happens with the week of cuts that comes up. So, Peggy, listen, we want to thank you for your time. But before we let you go, we do this with on our show. So we're just going to ask you a couple of quick rapid fire questions about Chicago real quick.
Okay. Yeah.
So just kind of rapid fire. Mike Ditka or Phil Jackson?
Oh, Mike Ditka.
Okay. Vic asked me to ask you this one: Dino's Pizza or Moretti's Pizza?
I'm really not a pizza person.
Okay.
Oh my God! Well,
That's-
I know I'm supposed to say Dino's on Higgins.
Yeah,
I know I'm
that's
not
all
a
right.
pizza person.
That's all right. That's okay. Sears Tower or Willis Tower?
Oh, Sears Tower.
Okay. And then are the Bears going to stay at Soldier or are they going to move to Arlington?
They're moving to Arlington, and I think it's such a fantastic idea. They
Same
need
with
to
me.
pump more money into their coffers that can then be turned around and used for the team. So I think it's a phenomenal move that they need to own their own stadium.
Okay. TV or radio?
Oh boy. See, I started in radio, moved to TV. Now I'm back on radio. Oh, well, I'm going to say radio because local TV is starting to become a dinosaur.
That's true.
That's true. That's very true. And then the last question we have: how much fun are you having with Dion on Saturdays on ESPN?
Oh my gosh. We should be paying them. They should. It's just stupid radio. And the fact that our demographics still show that it's men listening to us and they're not annoyed. I mean, every now and then there's someone that says, oh my gosh, they laugh too much. And I thought, well, you can't possibly laugh too much.
No,
and
I thought it was not hysterical.
And it's not fake. It is true. She and I get along fabulously. We are dear friends. And we get to play catch up every Saturday between 11 and 1. And we're having a blast. We're having a blast doing it.
That's awesome. We talked a little about this a little before we jumped on today, but you and Dion are definitely well-versed in Chicago sports. Your experience speaks for itself. And, we love listening to you. We can listen to you all day on the radio. They probably should give you guys a regular show every week, but listen to you guys on Saturdays is fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you guys, thank you for having our backs. We appreciate it. There's a whole new audience now that doesn't know who I am. And man, are they like those social media scams.
They're missing out.
So thank you. Thank you for having my back.
Listen, Peggy, we want to thank you so much. This was so much fun having you on today and hearing some of the past experiences you've had in covering these teams. Like I said, we've been big fans of your work for a long time. So this is really a thrill for us. Like, this is an honor for us to do this today. If you haven't had a chance yet, listen to Peggy and Dion on Saturdays on ESPN1000. Also listen to her podcast, Sportscaster and her son, and also Dion and Peggy. The podcast is available on the ESPN Chicago app. Peggy, thanks a lot so much for doing this. Hopefully we'll be able to talk to you again soon, and we'll catch up with you, but we'll be listening and watching. So thank you so much.
Thanks, you guys. Have a great one.
Thank you,
Let's
Peggy.
go Bears, right?
Right.
You got it.
Well, I hope all of you enjoyed the interview that we had with Peggy Kusinski. We enjoyed the interview. We had a lot of fun talking to her.
That was a lot of fun, man.
It was great. So Vic, what do you think about some of the things that she said?
Well, you know what? First of all, like when she was talking about how DePaul didn't have like a women's program at the time, I wanted to follow up, get some more information about how she was feeling then just as a woman in sports, because that had to have been tough for people who had dreams of being, more than a high school athlete. Now you see the college and the professional women that stood out to me first. Other things as well. I'll go to you. What did you think?
I just listened to her talk about some of her experiences with the team she's covered. I mean, look,
That's
we
cool.
watched all these events on TV, but she was up
Cool.
there in person. The Bulls championships, right?
Amazing.
The Super Bowl in Miami with Lovie Smith and Devin Hester. The three, and the Cubs championship, the World Series, the Sox. That's more than most people would see in their lifetime. Well, we were lucky enough to experience that in our lifetime, right? But she got to experience that right up close. But I think the one story she talked about Barcelona.
That was cool.
I had forgotten that she had gone to Barcelona to cover for NBC, and
I honestly didn't even think of the Olympics when we had her on the show. So I was thinking just Chicago sports, but that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So thanks to Peggy for doing the interview. We really did appreciate it. And again, we're going to plug the show again. If you haven't had a chance yet, check her out on ESPN1000 on Saturday afternoons with Dion Miller.
And then also yep, and on YouTube on Sportcaster and her son with Peggy K and Jason Conander.
Yeah, and then also she's also got both of those podcasts can also be seen or heard on the ESPN1000 app. So
got it.
Thanks everyone for watching this very special episode of the Windy City Digits podcast. I do appreciate you guys tuning in. If you haven't had a chance yet, hit the like, subscribe, hit the bell to get notified, and we will see you guys in the next video. Peace,
love,
and digits.